My name is Ibrahim Abdullah. I am a project development officer at Compete Caribbean, and I hope you're enjoying our Compete Caribbean partner dialogue, learning about our pillars, our donors, and how we create opportunities for private sector development. Uh, I'm here today to talk about moving resilience finance into action. And first, I want to do three things over the next 10 minutes. I want to briefly outline the challenges. Then I want to introduce a few concepts and pathways that we have been using at Compete Caribbean to mobilize resilience finance. And then three, I want to directly invite you to collaborate further with us and translate how these pathways that we have developed and have been working on translates into further private finance. So, outlining the challenge. So first, we know clearly there is the challenge of small and medium enterprises facing severe resource constraints, limitations, when it comes to attempting to finance and execute resilience upgrades. We know that even when firms know what to do, they cannot often finance that investment package properly. Second, we know there is capital deployment friction, where regional bodies more or less have the available money, but that does not automatically translate into funding MSME resilience. And third, we have diagnostic gaps, where high potential local businesses often lack the tools to diagnose the hazards that they face, and that doesn't allow them to demonstrate readiness to funders. So the challenge is really having that underlying project preparation and risk management frameworks that are required to deploy capital effectively. And this is where we see Compete Caribbean playing a key role. So I would skip some of these very standard definitions. I will leave it in this slide in case it is printed so that you can have it. But we all know of technology extension services, parametric insurance, ocean telemetry, sustainable financing, and sustainability, and biodiversity credits. Very interesting concepts that you will see how we shift them into our pathways. So we all know the Compete Caribbean approach. I'm very happy we've covered all three pillars here today. We have private sector competitiveness under Pillar 1, government and institutional capability strengthening under Pillar 2, which is where most of the projects I will cover here today fall. And I think a few of them also transition us well into our Pillar 3 around research and development. So I'll use these pathways, these 5 pathways, to describe how we want to remove a different bottleneck. So for the first pathway, what I have called the diagnostic pathway, and this is through our technology extension services instrument, where we want to build the capacity within DSOs, local DSOs, to deploy public good diagnostics, and these would include digital and climate vulnerability diagnostics to assess firm level adaptive capacity and give them very tailored responses to the problems that they have, individualized responses. And I think those benefits would flow not only to those who eventually receive our technical assistance grants, but all businesses taking the diagnostics would have that value of the information produced. We have the risk pathway, and I was very happy that Lisa touched on it. It's the Flexible Hurricane Protection Project that originated in Dominica with CREAM. And that project, I think, is very important to bring up today because it has now scaled independent of Compete, where the Natural Disaster Fund has also contributed up to last year's hurricane season around $5 million US. So it shows that our Compete Caribbean initial I would say vision, as translated into a sustainable tool for the region. Next, we look at the data pathway, which is through a project, TOPIM project that we will have. TOPIM is an acronym for the Tropical Cyclone Ocean Potential Intensity Model. What it will do, really, is improve the predictive capabilities for the Caribbean region, going beyond what is currently possible through typical models, and will allow us to have better risk and adaptation planning. Fourth, we have the distribution pathway, where we building on really what Antigua and Barbuda has with the SURF, and they more or less through this project ensuring that their facility in Antigua and Barbuda is more geared towards supporting green businesses and MSMEs and women-led MSMEs, and also to share a lot of these lessons with the Tobago House of Assembly through the Green Financing Facility that is tied to the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in Northeast Tobago. Lastly, I will highlight the new asset pathway, which is to create coastal and marine ecosystem services framework that can generate biodiversity credits, leading to the attracting of ESG capital into resilience and outcomes. So taken together, the diagnostics build the pipeline for projects. Risk transfer keeps the firms confident in their ability to continue business operations. Data improves the prediction for insurance, and distribution actually ensures that the right companies, right MSMEs, are receiving funding. And new asset classes takes advantage of the natural resources of the Caribbean, coral reefs, mangroves, and in this case, leatherback sea turtles in Trinidad and Tobago to anchor a new type of credit instrument. So I've spoken a lot about the different projects, but I guess this is a bit of a project showcase. On this slide, we've combined the two projects related to parametric insurance, more or less, both the one that has been funded, Flexible Hurricane Protection, which has been scaled to mobilize 4.7 million, and we already have a bit of a proof of concept where during Hurricane Beryl, this facility was able to disburse funds to over 40 policyholders, including those in the OECS, and I think that is where it has really flourished. So TOPIM is really about moving beyond using subsurface ocean data to improve the predictive capability. TOPIM has been done before, and has been developed by the University of the West Indies and an Irish university, University of Maynooth, and we will be working with them to do the version 2 of TOPIM, which will improve these models even more, make them available to 5 Cs and Caribbean Meteorological Association. I can't remember the acronym, but the Caribbean Meteorological Bodies, to ensure that the model is able to support the work of the region. Next, we will look at the national financing frameworks that we have, and on that side, we want to improve, of course, embedding inclusive and green procurement standards, inclusive capital distribution into the operations of the Sustainable Resilience Facility in Antigua. Also tying, very importantly, filling an important gap where in Tobago we have a new UNESCO Heritage Biosphere Reserve, but there is no clear instrument available for MSMEs to really receive support or concessional finance to operate in that space. So next, I want to explain a bit more about this biodiversity credit system that we are supporting in Trinidad and Tobago. And the key thing about it to understand is that it's really supporting long-term activity to protect the environment. So the idea is that the ecosystem protection is really tied into what is a unit. And it starts with understanding the ecosystem category, what is the level of threat. So in Trinidad and Tobago, the leatherback sea turtle is endangered. Looking at the ecological and community connectivity. So what other ecosystems are protected through the protection of these areas. And in this case, it's not actually the turtle, it's actually sand dunes on the beach. That is the area of protection. The community engagement is big because of the areas in Trinidad and Tobago where it works, in terms of the villages of Grand Revere and Matura. The project duration, to ensure that you have a biodiversity credit, you have to more or less promise protection for 20 years. And this project is seeking to do that through, that's why it's a legislative approach. You need to have more than just the credit mechanism being developed, which we are borrowing from a group that is already ongoing within the IDP. So it's a fairly new area, but we are confident that the methodologies are there, and this project has exciting potential for applicability, scalability, maybe turtles in Trinidad and Tobago, it may be the coral reef somewhere else. And I would skip tests other than to point at the nice number that we have mobilized for the revitalized or the decentralized test mechanism. I know this, you can look at the more or less the shape of the delivery mechanism for tests. I don't want to go too much into it because I know Dario and Russell, right after this presentation, will go deeper into it, but I would encourage you to see where you can imagine your organization can be and what resources can be added to the fund. Next, always as well moving with partnerships into action. Really here to reinforce that the Compete Caribbean program is really always about developing the partnerships first with our donors, then co-execution partners like we have with Caribbean Export and the Caribbean Development Fund, working closely with national delivery counterparts, and then having that level of scientific innovation like we're building with the University of West Indies and Ethiopia. So if I were to translate these pathways into investment opportunities, I would say we are inviting commercial banks, development finance institutions to provide credit lines that can take up some of that financing conversion we want to see from tests. We're going to leave a lot of MSMEs with relatively small contributions towards their climate adaptation technologies. We have our own limitations, but I think if we could get more financing for some of the capital goods, there's a lot to be funded in this space to bring up those vulnerability scores. Second is to scale the risk transfer and data pathways, both on the parametric insurance, so more capital backstops, and deployment of the token tool across the region to help with adaptation planning. The funding distribution pathway, so another area for funding to be held. I think it's important that these funding mechanisms will be developed on best practices to deploy concessional funds to green businesses, which I think even in the climate landscape they really lack. A lot of funding goes towards community and to NGO type organizations, but I think more could be done on concessional finance for business. And then lastly, I think the opportunity for the new asset pathway is looking at ESG. And once we can have that sort of interest and collaboration, I think because it's a highly technical field, projects like the Tobago Biodiversity Credit can be good first movers for how we enter this high integrity natural capital market. And I just seen Tom there. I know that the FCDO in Trinidad, the UK High Commission, has supported the IMA on a parallel project in this space. So that's just one thing to mention there. And that's it for today. Let's get moving. You can reach out to us. My name is Ibrahim Abdullah. This is my email. Of course, reach out to our pillar coordinators and visit our knowledge repository to follow up on any of the ideas you see today. Thank you very much.